Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Yolanda Melody. Today I want to talk about digital currency and how it is such a trap, how I believe that we should avoid it at all costs, and how if digital currency is completely implemented, it truly will be the end of our freedom. Some people may think that this is just a conspiracy, but if you do a simple Google search, you will find that 10 countries already are in the beginning stages of implementing this. The UK are currently discussing how they are planning to implement this, and it only takes a small amount of research to realise that this is a reality, or rather the people at the top want this to be our reality very soon. A lot of people might be asking, so what? What's the big deal? Our currency at the moment basically feels like it is digital because a lot of people use their phones to pay for things now. A lot of people think that cash is just an inconvenience and it's so annoying faffing around with paper and pennies, and why not just make things simple? In this video I'm going to explain why it's such a big deal, but more importantly, what we can actually do about it. I always want to give you guys a solution so that it's not all doom and gloom, but before we get to the solution, we need to properly understand what's actually happening. So at this current moment in time, you are free to spend your money how you wish. If you want to make a transaction, there's no one leaning over your shoulder telling you that you can't. If you've got the money in the bank, you can spend it. If you want a transaction to be completely private, you can go to an ATM and you can draw your money in an actual physical form. Now, if you were to transfer all of your funds over to a digital currency, you would no longer have any form of privacy, and if the Gov wanted to stop you from spending your money on something, they could do it. Digital currency can be programmed, and I want to give you some examples of how this could be implemented. So we know at the moment there is an incentive for people to quote-unquote save the planet. We're all being incentivized to travel less because of emissions, etc. Which, by the way, the people who are telling us to do this are going on a private jet simply to have an hour-long meeting and then come back. But anyway, if we were currently using digital currency, that currency could be programmed to limit the amount of fuel that you put in your car. If any of you guys have heard about carbon credits, you'll know exactly what I mean. Or say, for example, they pull another lockdown. They make a rule and they say that you can't travel further than 5 miles from your own home. And they put a limit on the times that you can shop. So say, for example, your slot would be between 2 PM and 3 PM. Say, for example, you ran out of milk at 4 and travelled a bit further out to go and get it. When it comes to the point of the transaction, an error code could come up, like unauthorised purchase or something. We know that there's an agenda to stop people from eating meat. Say, for example, you're doing your weekly shop and you put too much meat in your basket, you go to the checkout and oh, nope, sorry, you're gonna have to put some back because the digital currency has been programmed to limit the amount that you buy. Now, I myself am vegetarian, but that's completely irrelevant in this argument. Another thing that really scares me is that digital currency could actually have an expiry date. So imagine if you were a person receiving benefits and you were told that if you didn't spend that money within that month, it would be wiped. Some people might ask, why would they do that? Well, the news can come up with a lot of excuses as to why you have to do things that are extremely unreasonable, and as we've seen over the past 2 years, many people fall for it. We've all heard the phrase money makes the world go round. They could simply use the excuse that they're trying to keep the economy running by encouraging people to spend more so that we don't head into another recession, because we all know by now that the less movement within the economy, the more that it causes a spiral. And yes, all of these things that I'm saying right now are a hypothesis, meaning they haven't happened yet, but given what you've seen over the past 2 years and the level of control that these people at the top have tried to implement, do you not think that these examples are plausible? The fact of the matter is that if you accept digital currency, it is fact that you will be giving them the ability to do all of these things. You will be handing over complete control of your finances. And once you've given your control away, it's very, very difficult to bring it back. I have a feeling that maybe in the next few months, or years maybe, there will be a situation that arises where the bank says that you can't draw your money out anymore. And the reason why I say that is because something like this has already actually happened in China, but guess what? You can't talk about it on here. So I'm gonna have to be very brief about it. Something happened roughly around July 2022 where the people of China actually tried to access their savings and suddenly they were stopped. They couldn't draw their money out, they couldn't even see the figure on the ATM, and there were actually mass protests going on, but every time people tried to post videos of the protests, they were removed. Now what's funny is that the UK news hasn't reported about any of this. It's all happening behind the scenes. Another thing to pay attention to is the fact that many bank branches are closing, which is furthering the gap between you being able to talk to an actual person when it comes to the money that you have in the bank. They are trying to encourage people to do all of their banking online, and if they have any inquiries, they could maybe get through to a call centre, but the opportunity to actually go into a bank and speak to an actual human is lessening the more that time goes on. And I believe that the reason for this is not for convenience or because it's quicker, it's about getting people into the habit of doing what they would do if they had a digital currency. And also, if there's any problems with your bank, it'll be much more difficult to actually complain to someone and get it fixed. Half the time when you call up these call centres, you're not even speaking to a real person, it's a freaking robot. So anyway, I've spoken to people about this and they've said, oh, the general public won't have that. If they're stopped from accessing their money, they'll go absolutely crazy, there'll be an uproar. Well, I don't know. Over the past 2 years, I've kind of lost my faith that that would happen unless people actually fully wake up and know the full story. And the truth is that all of these things that are being presented to us as new, more convenient, advanced, the majority of these things are all traps to enslave us further than we already are. Enough doom and gloom. What can we do to stop this from happening? The key is to hold on to everything that isn't digital so we don't lose it. Believe it or not, we have a lot more power than we think. If everyone started using cash all of a sudden and stopped using their card and their phones to pay for things, then there's no way that they can just slowly stop you from using cash, because the whole world would just come to a halt. However, on the flip side, if people all stop using cash, it will be so easy for places to just say, oh, we don't accept cash anymore, thus ushering us further into a digital currency. I would even go as far to say, boycott any place that doesn't accept cash. And again, if everybody did this, whatever places are trying to usher in the Great Reset will have to have a great rethink. I mean, just look back at 2020. Do you remember how they kept saying, don't use cash because it spreads the thing, the imaginary thing? Use card because it's safer. During that time, a lot of people were ushered into the habit of using their phone to pay or using their card. Another thing that I just want to point out is the way that they usher in these new normals is by using incentives first off, and also making it incredibly difficult not to comply. Say for example, if something happened where suddenly the banks collapsed, you weren't able to draw your money out, like what's happening in China, you couldn't access your savings, most people would go into a blind panic. Then they could put something on the news and say, for anyone who's struggling to access their funds, you can download an app for the digital currency and transfer all of your money over to a digital currency. They could even incentivise it and say, you'll get £100 bonus for joining. And I'm sorry, but a lot of people would probably fall for that if they didn't know any better, because they'd just be thinking, I just want to access my money, and the news is giving me a solution and a way out, and I get £100 bonus, yay! This is how I believe it could actually happen. So the key in that scenario is to not take the bait, be brave now, stand up for your rights, because otherwise they'll be taken from you. If you feel like this video has been informative, please share it with people so we can spread the word. The more people that are aware of this, the better chance we have of stopping this happen. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Love you, bye!